And then finally, I wanted to get this out here. So Wesley Curry II is well known in these chats. He thinks he has received revelation directly from God. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because we now have something where we can very specifically test him because he has made a prophecy. And the biblical test for a prophet is any prophet that gives a false prophet is not a prophet of Yahweh. So, being very generous, I'm going to read his prophecy here. On February 22nd, all your Satan books you call Quran shall be erased by Jesus Christ for a moment, long enough for you to see it happen. So, February 22nd, I did try to clarify if he was talking about 2024. He did not answer me, but I think it's obviously implied 2024. 9 days from now, if you don't see any news stories and or don't see your own Qurans disappear, we will know that Wesley is a false prophet and the death penalty would apply to him in biblical times. Now, obviously, we don't live under the Mosaic law, so I'm not suggesting anyone give him the death penalty, but I am highlighting this in the hopes that he will be reminded of his false prophecy after the 22nd and maybe, just maybe, get through to him that he is delusional and has not actually talked to Jesus and other such claims. I know it's a long shot, but worth a try, in my opinion. All right, back to you, Mary.
So, Mahmudin Khan here is a disgusting liar and a pervert who would love a grown man to take his little 6 year old, 5 year old, 3 year old, 8 year old daughter and shove his penis into her over and over and over again and rip her apart and permanently cripple her because that's what happens in Islam and that gives him peace. He
Indeed,
doesn't
indeed. He
care
feels
about women. He
peace.
doesn't care about the peace that they feel because women are trash. They are objects for his sexual pleasure. And he is looking forward to Jannah, where he will have more women who will have hymens that he gets to rip over and over and over again. Because for Islam, that is the promise, because it is the perverted promise of a perverted prophet. And because his perversion matters so much, he will sacrifice untold numbers of other people for his disgusting appetites. Yes, you should be on a register. No, there should be no freedom of speech for wanting to have sex with children. No, it was not normal in the past. Yes, you are a disgusting pervert and you
Hey,
should stop lying about the past. Now,
so I'm going to disagree with Mary slightly. I think he has the right to express his opinion, and we have the right to point out that he is a perverted, disgusting human being as a result. He says that age is just a social construct, which is utter nonsense. Age is
complete
biological.
nonsense.
It's not imaginary, right? It's not like, say, race, where it's arbitrary set of attributes that people have grouped together and made something out of. Age is 100% biological. It's not a social construct. And some girls are too young to have sex, including the one that your disgusting so called prophet raped. And all of the millions of girls throughout Islamic history who've had their bodies destroyed by disgusting men like you, following the example of your disgusting prophet, will be stood up for on this channel. So thank you for coming in here and expressing your sick desires so that we could point out that you're just following in Muhammad's footsteps. You're following the natural consequences of Islam. And the 99.99% of people who have a normal functioning conscience, whether they're Muslim or not, will reject this utter garbage and as a consequence, reject your prophet. So thank you very much.
She was 9 years old.
All right, you want to get back to the actual
Yeah,
subject,
I
Mary?
will in a second. One final thing. You don't actually need explicit age limits where you don't have people who are perverts wanting to have sex with small children. So there are states where, with permission of parents and judges, people who are under who with unspecified ages can marry, because it never occurred to anyone in the history of the world that you would have someone with a single digit age involved in this, nor would it occur to them. It's something that doesn't even need to be made illegal, because no one has ever been that disgusting. Out of millions and millions of people, no one has been that disgusting. So it is not a loophole that has needed to be filled. And Joseph Smith actually was better than Mohammed, because he waited until the girl was 14 to have sex with her. He did not have sex with someone with a single digit age. And Joseph Smith was, in fact, doing illegal stuff, and so moved to an area that was out of any state. There was no state law there. There was no authority, so that he could be his own law, just like Muhammad. Because Muhammad was a disgusting pervert and wanted to put his penis in a lot of women, he went to a place where he could exploit lots of women and little girls. Where, because Joseph Smith was a pervert, he went to a place where he could exploit a lot of women and teenagers. So, no, no one in the US has had a marriage with a 9-year-old girl. Sorry, try again. Because the loophole existed, because it never needed to be filled. When you have things like that, they get filled when there are abuses that cause them to be filled. Like, oh, we need to make a rule about this because somebody did something horrible, because we don't have anything necessarily against this at this time. You don't need to fill the loophole if nobody's doing the thing. You don't have laws against things that no one has ever done. And no
This
one's
is
gone,
just amazing to
hey,
me.
I think that I will ask to be married to this 6-year-old, because it never occurred to them in a million years that anyone would say, yes, that's okay. You could do that. No one ever requested it. So there doesn't need to be a rule against it.
This is a first for me. I have never seen a Muslim say, but Joseph Smith did it. That's some
Another
kind of
false prophet.
justification, right? As Hasdrubal says, only Muslims can claim Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith did it. It must be fine. Just like Muhammad, he claimed that polygamy was allowed. Just like Muhammad, he claimed himself to be a prophet. Just like Muhammad, he claimed to be getting revelation that revealed how the previous texts were corrupted. They're practically the same individual. It's almost like Jabril came to Joseph Smith and said, hey, over there in the Middle East, we've been very successful with this new religion. Why don't you give it a try, Mr. Joseph Smith? Why don't you start Islam here in the United States and call it Mormonism? And thus, the devil shows that he has no creativity. He just goes back to the same well time and again. And why not? It worked once. Why not try it again? As even our Muslim friend can see, there's very little difference between Muhammad and Joseph Smith. So thank you. Thank you. That was some rare honesty from the Muslim. Let
Yeah,
me take this. Go ahead.
yeah, I think that he is actually looking forward to the little boys who don't believe. That's who he wants to have sex with. He doesn't even want the hoodies. He wants to have sex with the little boys who don't believe, because the promise of Jannah is that you get to have sex. All you have to do is not have all the sex you want to have now, and you'll have as much sex as you can ever want with the prettiest boys and the most beautiful, barely pubescent girls whose breasts are just beginning to bud, not adult women. No, no. Catholic kings in the Middle Ages did not have multiple wives, you utter moron. Nor did they have sex with prepubescent girls. It was not legal in canon law.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Indeed. Why
continue
did the King of
being
England break
delusional and
off and form his
stupid.
own church, Mary?
Do
Why did
what?
the King of England? Why did the King of England form his own church? Was it because
because
he was allowed
he
to
was
have as many
not
wives as he
allowed.
wanted?
Yeah, he was a Catholic, and he was not being allowed to divorce his wife who could not give him children. I mean, she had a number of. She had one son who lived for a little while. He died in childhood. She had a number of other children who were either miscarried or died very soon after birth. Um, so they died within in less than a year. But he had no surviving children. She was too old to have more. He wanted to divorce her and marry someone else, and he refused. And the Pope refused to give him permission, essentially because her nephew threatened the Pope and was closer with armies.
But the point here is that not only could he not take a second wife,
Mm-hmm.
he had to have permission from the church to divorce his first wife in order to
Yep.
take a new first wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the evidence that Christianity practiced polygamy. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff here in the chat today. I'm beginning to think that after all this time and all his claims about feeling peace in Islam and being persecuted and blah, 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 I'm beginning to think he's actually not a Muslim at all, that he's an atheist who comes here to try to make Muslims look as stupid as possible. All right, let's get back to the subject.